Good evening, it's Graham Healy from the Healy Report. I'm just making a few commentaries regarding the pro-Australian march today, the 31st of August, Sunday the 31st of August. And in the backdrop there, I've got the Charge of the Light Brigade there. And if you want to purchase the print, that belongs to Ian Coate, Coate, and his website is iancoate.art. So that's written down the bottom there if you can't see it. Now, just there's a couple of things. Sky News has given some good reports as well. And they've really, what this is a turning point in Australia. It's a flashpoint really regarding unvetted migration. Now, migration is first to immigration. Migration is people moving into the country that aren't citizens. And immigration is someone who wants to be a citizen of Australia. Now, we've got unfortunately, the marches today, even though they were supported by a lot of genuine Australians, the trouble is there wasn't any leadership guiding the marches, and there wasn't any real objectives and goals laid out very clearly. I think probably Bob Katter did outline some very good goals, but I think in future these marches, even though that was good today and to see the Australian flag being flown everywhere, that was great, and there were big numbers, so that's great. But I just want to cover a couple of things. Albanese, as far as I'm concerned, and I've said this prophetically, Albanese will be removed from office by October, November this year. Now, just as he recognises Palestine, which isn't a state, and it's not an officially recognised country anyhow, and it's ruled by terrorists. So by Albanese recognising Palestine, he automatically recognises. I'll just read it. Any fool can read this on the internet. And just one moment, please. Here we go. Hamas, Hamas, is the Palestine militant group that rules Gaza. So in other words, you've got a globally registered terrorist group that rule Gaza. Now, all these marches in Australia that were supposedly freeing Palestine, well, 70%, or if you can believe this, but anyway, 70% of the population of Gaza voted for the terrorists. So most of the people in Gaza want terrorists ruling them, if you can believe the stats that 70% voted they wanted terrorists ruling them, but that's how it is. This whole thing in Australia where you see people walking around with the Yasser Arafat tablecloths on their head, maybe they should take a trip over to the Middle East. I've got several friends who've been to the Middle East. I've got friends who've seen beheadings. I've got friends who've fought in the Middle East. It's a whole different world over there, and it isn't about children being murdered or things like this that you see this rant and rave with the so-called pro-Palestine movement. That is just a proxy of the basically propaganda by Hamas that they use in the Western media, because they know the weakness of the Western media. They'll propagate and do a whole lot of things that get widely published on the internet, widely published by the leftist-leaning media, without being so far from the truth. Well, actually being so far from the truth, it's, any fool with half a brain can see it. So, number one, this whole movement that's going on, there's a negative movement and there should be a positive movement. So the negative movement is this. The Australian government, who really got into re-elected by default because there wasn't any opposition. the opposition was actually trying to be woke, right? And as a result, they gave all their preferences to Labor. Labor's controlled by the Greens. Greens are just extremists, as people are very quickly working out that the Greens are pro-terrorists, basically. They try and dress it up as, they're trying to free Palestine, for God's sake. At the end of the day, Palestine's ruled by terrorists, and 70% of the population there want the terrorists ruling them. And the fact is that the terrorists put all their rocket launching everything in hospitals and in houses, and they set it up so that, basically Hamas is a death cult, right? So they set stuff up. They don't care about the people in Gaza. If they, we all know that. They really, their objective is to eliminate Israel. Now, anyone who attends these I call them pro-Hamas rallies, they say free Palestine, no such thing, because Palestine's under a terrorist death cult rule, voluntarily, by the way. And so by allowing those marches in Australia, we are by default supporting terrorism. Now, the vast majority of Australians have had enough of this. They've had a gutful of this, as you see in today, the 31st of April. You see the marches going on with everyone with Australian flags and that. The bulk of Australians in these marches have had a gutful of the Labor government. They've had a gutful of the Labor government with this mass immigration policy, and I'll explain the immigration policy in a second. Crime is increasing on the streets like you wouldn't believe. There's people running around with machetes and God knows what else. You think that Melbourne especially has turned into another war zone, like, as I say, in the Middle East somewhere, or a war zone in Africa or somewhere. So we're rapidly pulling down the standards of law and order in this country, and it must be stopped. Now, how is that going to be stopped? I'll explain a couple of things in a second. Now, regarding what I call the pro-Hamas rallies, they should be immediately banned. Full stop, end of story. Anyone walking around with the image of Ayatollah Khomeini and all these recognized world terrorists, they should immediately be arrested. That's as far as I'm concerned. And I think that's what's upsetting most of Australians, where they don't want their country, both, the legitimate immigrated population here. In other words, yes, we are a multicultural country, but you've got to remember this, that the Italians, the Greeks, the Malaysian Chinese, the Chinese, Lebanese, all these people who've legitimately migrated to Australia have accepted citizenship and respect that they are living, they used to be living in a country that is far divorced from all war zones and things like this. So that image that Australia had is rapidly degenerating unless we do something about it big time. Now, you see in the back of this backdrop here is the charge of the Light Brigade. Now, remember, our soldiers spilt their blood freeing Israel. All right, so that was the charge of the Light Brigade. I'll just bring it up here. The charge of the Light Horse Brigade refers to an historical event on October 31st. Now, just think of that timing. October 31st, 1977, not 1977, 1917, during the First World War, when the 4th Australian Light Horse Brigade launched a daring mounted charge to capture the fortified town of Beersheba, Palestine, in the area of Palestine. Well, what they call Palestine was, anyway, that's from the Ottoman Turk Empire, right? The Turk Empire, Hitler was negotiating with the Turks to eliminate the Jews in World War II. So just draw the dots together, folks. This is all about destroying Israel, and the thing is that the Australian Light Horse Brigade, who I've read this, you can read it on the internet. We were started, the first Light Horse Brigade started in Queensland. Now, I want you to observe that charge of the Light Horse Brigade was on October 31st. October is a pivotal month in the Jewish calendar. October is a pivotal month for the Light Horse Brigade. So there's these two things coming together, maybe prophetically, right, as I do this broadcast. So during, there's a few things we've got planning behind the scenes, which I'm not, it's private at the moment. But just remember this, that October is going to be a very, very pivotal month in Australia regarding all of this, regarding the charge of the Light Horse Brigade, regarding the 1,200 people that were mercilessly slaughtered by Hamas. How dare these people support Hamas in this country? What about the protests about the 1,200 people that were slaughtered, burnt, raped, and the 251 people were held as hostages by Hamas? What about running some rallies for them? Eh? You think about it. Who are the victims here? It's certainly not Hamas. They're the death cult. And yet we've had this un-Australian government supporting Hamas. In one word, they say they're not, but they are. Anyone who is marching on this street with Yasser Arafat turbans on is going against the spirit of the Light Horse Brigade, and they are aligning themselves with the same spirit that Adolf Hitler had when he aligned with the Turks, the Ottoman Empire. Just look it on the internet, which is Turkey, and they together, Hitler and Turkey, were planning to eliminate the Jews because they hated the Jews, right? Now, it just happens that the Jewish nation is the main ally with us and the USA, and Albanese, as spineless as he is a very devious little character who has actually alienated us, Australia, on 34% of the vote, and that's what this demonstration in part was about, although some of the people probably don't realise the ramifications of this behind the scenes. So Albanese has alienated us from our major ally in the Middle East, which is Israel, of course, and he's also alienated us from the USA because him and Rudd have totally basically broken relationship with the USA, which is fatal for Australia. So Australians are waking up to this, fortunately, and today's demonstration, even though it was sort of leaderless, is a statement in itself where it looks like the average Aussie out there who doesn't really understand the full detail that I'm talking about has had enough. So, we've got a crisis here. We've got a housing crisis. We've got an economy crisis. We've got a power crisis. For goodness sake, we've got crises going on everywhere. Australia is at the turning point. It's at a pivotal point in history. Now, let's just handle immigration or migration. Now, migration is someone who comes here who's not a citizen. Immigration is someone who comes here to be a citizen. Now, if someone wants to migrate to Australia, now we're a multicultural country, but what does that mean? If you come from wherever country, say, I go to a multicultural church, right? So a lot of the people at the church are from Malaysia. So if you come from Malaysia to Australia, Malaysia's a Muslim country, you come to Australia, you adopt an Australian citizenship, and your loyalties, even though you might visit people back in Malaysia, your loyalties are to Australia because you become an Australian citizen with the benefits of Australian citizenship. That's how it works. And most of the Malaysian and Chinese, my former wife before she passed away was from Hong Kong. Most of the, and I'm been associated with through martial arts and that with the Korean community and whatever. I'll tell you something about the Asian community, and my best mate in Sydney is from Vietnam. My martial arts assistant, who I re-met today, he's from Vietnam. So myself personally, I integrate with, I'm a multicultural, I've got multicultural friends all over the place. My dentist is a Sikh Indian with the big turban and a big beard, greatest dentist in Brisbane. So I'm not coming from any sort of racist perspective. I'm coming from a person, and with Aboriginal people, my grandfather trained, he's a professional boxing coach and trained most of the Aboriginal fighters in North Queensland in Gordonvale from Yarrabah Mission. My best mate at school was Ozzy Yateman, who was an Aboriginal guy from Yarrabah Mission, and he later on joined the army and became a sergeant. So, let's just clear that redneck mentality, just in case, because you may get that label when I say what I'm saying. So just forget about that. I've walked the walk and talked the talk, okay? So I'm not racially prejudiced myself. I've got African friends, you name it. I've brought people over from Nigeria. I'm a Christian, so we believe in one nation under God. That's as simple as it is. Now, someone comes to Australia and they take citizenship, then they're under the Australian flag and they're under the Australian Constitution. It's as simple as that. And they assimilate. They don't form pockets of different cultures all around the country like, a lot of the Muslim population do that. They don't assimilate. They push the Muslim agenda. Now, I'm not saying that with all Muslims, but there is a danger in that culture. They don't assimilate. What they do is they keep their own culture and they don't respect the country that they're in many cases. And we've seen that regarding the expelling of the Iranian embassy and the terror cells. I mean, look, the current Labor government has seeded this country with terror cells. I'll tell you that now. So what's the objective of terror cells? To eliminate Israel. And you see the hatred that's been going on, anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, blaming them for everything. It reminds me of the World War II days when Hitler did the same thing. Excuse me. So let's just get back to the immigration thing. So one, you become a citizen of Australia, so you assimilate into the society and you're under the Judeo-Christian values, which is supposed to be what Australia is all about. And then, of course, you proliferate and assimilate, just like we've done over the years with the Italians, the Greeks, the Germans, the Vietnamese, the Chinese. If it wasn't for Asians, Malaysians, it wasn't for Asians in particular, and I was married to an Asian before Katrina passed away, we wouldn't have all these great Asian restaurants. You think how we'd miss out there. So that was part of the whole Australian thing. And I can remember when I can't remember this guy's name off the top of my head, but he'd become one of the politicians in Adelaide. And this is a good story to tell you what the spirit of Australia was really all about. His parents, they either came from Indonesia or one of the Asian countries where they came in as a boat person in Darwin. It could have been Vietnam, I'm not quite, I think it's Vietnam, after the Vietnam War. Excuse me. So they wound up in Darwin, and this is a classic. It was very foggy that day, and they were on a boat, you know, that had escaped from Vietnam, and the fog cleared, and there was this whole bunch of Aussies fishing, you know, in a tinny. And as the fog cleared, the Aussies saw these Vietnamese, and they waved to them and said, "Welcome to Australia." That was the attitude back then. And this, I forget the guy's name, but he's quite a well-known Vietnamese dignitary in South Australia. He tells that story, how he and his family migrated to Australia or immigrated to Australia, and they built a new life here in Australia. So that's what it's all about, contributing to the community. Now, the other thing is regarding the Judeo-Christian belief. So, as a Christian myself, that is really the only way to break down the barriers of different cultures. So, I go to a multicultural church, and there's people from all different nations, South America, Africa, Malaysia, China, you name it, they're all there, Aussies, Aboriginal Australians. So they're all there, united under one common belief, and that is that they're all Christians, right? So that's the way that Australian was founded, with the Judeo-Christian belief system, believing in Jesus as the Lord. And so that's very important. Now, the other thing is that if we have people pushing against that and trying to divide the nation, that's not going to work out real well. So at the moment, we've got the communist Labor government. They're not socialists, they're communists, trying to divide the nation. What are they doing? They're following the tracks of sleepy Joe Biden before Donald Trump took power in the US. You notice that Donald Trump and Netanyahu, I hope that's pronounced correctly, Netanyahu, that's there, I've got the book there, they're good mates because they're allies right through and through. They stick by each other. Now, until Australia gets rid of Albanese, and the Liberal Party's hopeless at the moment too, that whoever's in charge, I can't even remember the name of the woman's in charge of the Liberal Party, she's not going anywhere, like Dutton. He's not going anywhere either. So there has to be a reformation in Australia of the government. Perhaps senators will rise up, prophetically speaking, but we're at a turning point with the government instrumentalities as well. So the other thing is, I was thinking, okay, that's immigration, migration. Oh yes, the whole green scheme plan of things with intermittent power and everything, that is an absolute scam. So that's got to be halted immediately. So financially, the Labor Party is literally destroying the economy of Australia. We're resource rich, and we've got these idiots in charge trying to push windmills and batteries and all this sort of rubbish. So that's got to stop as well. So probably bottom line is this: we're at a pivot point. We're not anti-immigration. We just don't want to be. Let me say this, the reason why Albanese et al. Is pushing these mass immigrations, and I believe the figures are about 1,500 people a day being flooded into Australia. And this is not high quality people. Like the people I know, the Asian people I know, usually doctors, lawyers, and people that can contribute to society. And even if they can't, we've got various programs that we support in the church that put people into jobs. So, cleaning jobs and all this sort of stuff, so that they get a start in Australia in a productive way, whatever they're doing, whether they're cleaning offices, or they're trained medical personnel, or they're accountants, or whatever, or even if they're going to university here, that's a whole different ball game. But when we've got people that have imported into this country and they support terrorism, or they support Palestine, for instance, which is ruled by terrorists, they're what I call the head choppers, you've got serious problems going on, because that's totally against the spirit of Australia. That's what this demonstration was about today. The march was about today, even though they, in my opinion, they should have had some decent speakers there who were pushing the correct agendas rather than just a general march, which was good in itself, I suppose, right? Now, where are we going from here? Well, I think this is where I think we're going. Australia's definitely at the turning point. We're at the same turning point that the US was before Donald Trump got re-elected. Who is going to lead Australia out of this mess? Forget Albanese, he's gone. People say, oh, we've got to wait for the next election. No. This was my prediction, even from the last election, straight away. I said this, and I'll say it again. Albanese would be removed from government. His whole government would be kicked out, just like Gough Whitlam was kicked out, right? That'll probably happen, and I've said this a few times now, October, November this year. Now, September, there's no other word for it, unfortunately. This spineless so-and-so, Albanese, will be then recognising Palestine with the UK PM, the France PM, the Canada PM. All those politicians that recognise Palestine and are victimising or vilifying Israel will be removed. They'll fall like dominoes because they're pushing against God, right? Those that bless Israel will be blessed. Those that curse Israel will be cursed. Genesis 12:3. Now, just remember that very clearly, and they're gone. Their good is gone. Albanese's already gone. In the spirit, he's gone. I saw that some time ago. But anyway, you'll watch it play out. Now, who will be the leader in Australia? That's a good question. And my prophetic source information basically says that it may not be a politician. It'll be a very influential spiritual person, possibly a full-on Christian, more than likely a full-on Christian, that will have great influence over the government. So, and when that happens, there'll be a complete alignment with Australia and the USA and Israel. Can you believe that we've turned against Israel with this current government? Can you believe we've turned against the US with this current government? Can you believe that we've got people with holding the picture of the Ayatollah Khomeini walking across the Sydney Harbour Bridge, pretending to be demonstrating for children in Palestine or something, right? Where we know very well that Hamas, part of Hamas's strategy is to use any of their population as fodder in a war because they're a death cult. They don't care. Their objective is death to Israel, death to the US, and death to the infidels, if you know anything about the Quran. So that's a very negative situation, and it's designed to divide and conquer. That's the old dark side's methodology. We will divide and conquer. Now, the Christian side of things is totally the opposite. So it's about, the Christian faith is about uniting people under one faith, and that faith being the Christian faith, right? So the Prince of Peace is Jesus. Now, I had this conversation with, and I'm not anti-Muslim, I've got Muslim friends and what have you, but I'm anti-Muslim extremism, put it that way, or fundamentalism is more the word, because I know what the Quran says. Most people haven't a clue. Go on the internet and look up, the death to infidels and, what what the Quran says about what if you're outside their little cult. Right. I was at this business meeting, and there were several Muslims there, and we're having this conversation about business and what have you. And one person in the group said, "Well, they're all the same. The religions are all the same." And of course, I wasn't going to be pushing it too much, but I said, "Well, no, they're not." I said, "You've got to be very careful with immigration," I said at the time. And this particular character was from Malaysia. I've got friends from Malaysia, but he was a Malaysian Muslim. And he arced up immediately, and I had to listen to my spirit. And he said, "Oh, well, he said, they're all the same, da, 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 da," said that to me. And I said, "Really?" And I said, "I didn't name the Prophet Muhammad or anything. I just said this. How many people did Jesus kill?" And silence went through the whole group. And this guy, I can remember, he just walked away. He didn't have the answer because he knew the person he believes in murdered at least 500 Jews that I know of, chopped their heads off. This is all in the Quran. So, you've got to look at objectively, are we serving the Prince of Peace, or are we supporting a religion that is, one, anti-Jew, and two, anti-Western anything, actually? And unless you're in the death cult, they want to wipe out everyone else. So that's a very serious thing to think about. So that's Graham Healy, over and out. So the solution at the end of the day is to unite Australia under the lordship of Jesus Christ. There's only one way to go. I mean, the other religions, they don't promote terrorism. Well, some of the Buddhists do. But, it's only the Christian faith that promotes peace, but we have to have peace through strength. Okay, that's Graham Healy, the Healy Report, and also Fit for Christ Ministries. But we're at a serious turnaround point now, and we've had prophecies over Australia by Smith Wigglesworth about Australia being the great Southland of the Holy Spirit, and that we will go out and reconstruct other countries after we've been transformed. So reconstruct the economies of other countries and all this sort of thing. I believe that, but we're getting very close to that turnaround point. So the turnaround point, actually, I believe it'll be this year. So towards the end of the year, you'll see all this all come apart and be reformulated by the Lord himself. So in October is a very pivotal month this year. Not only is it Yom Kippur, which is the Day of Atonement, but it's the anniversary of all those innocent people that got slaughtered by Hamas. And I'll just repeat this again. How dare we make demonstrations of this country supporting Hamas? That's sacrilege in anyone's book, isn't it? It's like supporting Hitler, isn't it? It's like supporting Hitler, who terminated millions of Jews. Same thing, same spirit. You'd be very careful with that. Deep down, Australia knows what's going on is very disturbing. That's why these marches were going on today. And I think they will continue to go on until we completely kick out this current government. But what are we going to put in its place? Because Liberals are, well, they're not as bad, but they're not much better. So there has to be a spiritual revolution here as well. And there has to be a point where the churches are going to rise up. And for the decent people who've migrated from every other country to this country, whether it be, Asia, whether it be Africa, whether it be anywhere, South America. These people want to live here and contribute. And Australia is a welcoming country for them. But what it's not welcoming is people who are causing division and supporting the terrorists. That's what we don't want. So there's a stand against that, and there'll be basically a strength through peace. That's what I'm getting, strength through peace. So welcome to the turning point in Australia on the 31st of August 2025, which is a couple of days after my birthday, and then October, which is my, rest her soul, my mother's birthday. At the end of October, it's a Day of Atonement with the Jewish faith. And 7th of October is the anniversary, 2023, where all those people were murdered and 251 hostages taken by Hamas in Palestine, so-called, right? That's the bad guys, not Israel. So that month, October, will be the pivot month. September, which next month, this complete idiot, Albanese, will be recognising Palestine. I mean, in the middle of all this, he's not recognising Israel. He's going to recognise Palestine. I mean, that's treasonous. And these soldiers that are charging behind me will be, you know, I just feel that the resurrection of the spirit of the Light Horse Brigade has already risen. So look out, Albanese and your bunch of communists that are trying to wreck Australia. You're not going to get away with it. And there'll be strength through peace. And the Lord, Jesus Christ, is in control. Now, I can see prophetically that the Lord has struck his scepter on the ground in Australia, and there's a shockwave that's going through in concentric circles in Australia, and it's going to affect the whole world from here. So there's a big conversion coming through, and I'm looking forward to it. So get ready for it. It's not going to be the Kumbaya club in the churches. It's going to be people coming to the church for help, people coming to the church for a practical point of view, practical help, and there will be, the church will be facilitating a lot of things in this country very, very shortly, and it will grow exponentially. That's what I'm saying. So we've got a political revolution happening, but, you know, the answer's not in politics. It's in what a individual believes in. And if you're a believer and you believe in the Lord, believe in Jesus, at the end of the day, you'll have this eternal and internal peace, and you'll want to help your neighbour. Just remember this. I'll finish off on this. What did the Lord say? What encapsulates the 10 Commandments? You know, the 10 Commandments, it says, no idols against God, love the Lord God with all your heart, mind and soul. You know, no idols against God, do not commit adultery, do not murder, do not steal, do not covet your neighbour's goods, etc. It's encapsulated by one major commandment, or two really. One is to love God with all your heart, mind and soul. And the other one, I just want you to remember this, love your neighbour as you would yourself. Love your neighbour as you would yourself. Or as my great father said, Dad was a great bloke. He said he always thinks of the other fella first. That's the spirit of mateship in Australia. You think of the other person first. How can I help that other person? Get, help them out, look after them. Are you okay, mate? That's Australia. That's the spirit up there. Well, let me get my finger up there. There it is. That's the spirit of the Light Horse Brigade. They put their lives, just had no thought of their lives. They were thinking, let's liberate Israel. And they did. Now, I'll leave you on this point. we're at the point where the spirit of the Light Horse Brigade is going to liberate Australia. Praise the Lord. Graham Healy over and out. Jesus is Lord, and it's all happening. Have a great night.